Well, hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be painting the pink hydrangea. This is a photo that I took in my backyard and I love to paint these flowers. Did I say hydrangea? They're geraniums. Sorry, these are geraniums. I always get those two mixed up, mostly because they have kind of similar petal shape. But anyways, I'm going to be painting one of those today for you. Just a quick demo on how I go about painting something that has a lot of detail and can be sometimes overwhelming if you don't know how to approach it. So to start, I'm just going to do a little wash of kind of a grayed down background. So I'll get a little ultramarine blue and some transparent brown oxide and just get a little wash of that going. Now I like to paint, as you know, hummingbirds a lot, so when I do that I'll usually pick a flower that I see them fluttering around like a hydrangea or a geranium. I don't know why I keep saying hydrangea, anyways, and then I'll find a separate reference photo with the hummingbird that kind of fits the picture. And people always ask, and in the description I'll try to remember to add the places I find royalty-free reference photos, like Pixbay, deposit free images, and Pexels, Unsplash. I'll put those ones that I mainly find reference photos in the description. So don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so that you get notification when these videos come up on YouTube. I usually keep them on YouTube for a couple of days to a week, and then I take them down. And if you become a Patreon member for as little as $10 a month, you can start working on these tutorials. And for full-length lessons, the tier 3 and tier 4 will give you access to all my full-length videos lessons. But these are fun and they get you painting, these little ones. So now that I've got kind of a gray wash, the next thing I want to do when I'm painting something like a pink flower is I'm gonna use my paper towel and just dab it in my turp, and I'm gonna leave room because I'm not gonna paint the hummingbird right now, but I'm just gonna leave room for it, and I'm gonna dab off where my little poof ball of pink flowers is. I'm going to just sort of dab this off so I have some, kind of a clean start for my geranium. Pink geranium. So these little lessons can be really a good way to get painting if you struggle with, getting set up and getting started. And sometimes it's just hard to find the energy when you have so many other things to do during the day. So I've been really getting a lot of good feedback on these, that people are really enjoying these sort of shorter tutorials. So I'm happy because I enjoy making them. So I'm just going to do that one more time and get my turp on my, got something on my paper towel there, and just dab off as much as, that's probably good enough. But so when I paint something really vibrant and pink like that, or something really that needs to be a clean yellow or something, I'll quite often go back and wipe off some of the color like that. So I want to use, this is a number 8. I want to use something when I'm painting a flower, I find it's easier if I make the stroke with a brush that I can kind of get the basic size that I want of the stroke. So an 8 might be a little big. It might be better to use a 6, but the bigger the brush, the looser the painting. So I've got out my colors. I've got white and black. This is just some raw umber that I was using before. Indian yellow, cad yellow light, yellow ochre orange, quinacridone red, and for this lesson, this little blob of paint is not quinacridone red. This is quinacridone red. This is permanent rose, and it makes a really beautiful bright pink. Cobalt blue, ultramarine blue, transparent oxide red, and transparent oxide brown, sap green, viridian green, dioxazine violet, phthalo turquoise, and I had some of this left over again. I just had some permanent magenta from a lesson I recorded the other day. So I'm going to start off by blocking in some of those pink flowers using some of that permanent rose, and I should put it on a clean surface. That defeats the whole purpose if I take the paint off the canvas and then put it on a dirty palette. So you want to make sure your palette's clean. So I'm just getting some terp and some of that permanent rose, and that'll give me a nice pink. You can make a nice pink with quinacridone red. I don't know why, I just felt like doing something a little different. So the flower up front, I'm going to start with that one. And careful not to put I might have added too much terp there. So I'm going to just go and I'm making the petal shape as I go. So there's the petals. I'll just try to show you what I'm doing here. So I'm looking at that triangular kind of shape and I'm copying it, trying to do it one stroke. So I'm just gonna twist my brush. So I'm looking at, say, that one there, and I'm gonna put the paint down like that and just kind of twist my brush like that. So that's the idea. And so get a little more paint in that mix because it's a little watery, a little too watery. And make my last one there. And then there's some different kind of petals going every which way here. So I might pay attention to some of those designs in the beginning, but I'm really roughing it in, you know. And so this main flower, and then you can kind of see into the middle of this flower here. And then the rest of it, all these flowers around the outside, we're just gonna make some marks that, you know, kind of shows certain edges and shapes that look like what we got there. So mainly what you have is a bunch of shapes of light pink and dark pink petals. And then you're gonna have a few that you kind of show off it, and you can definitely see our hydrangea. And then we got some pink in here. And these are just kind of gonna be in the background. And once I do that, I'm gonna go back and get my paper towel and just sort of dab dab some of that off. Where I had a little bit, maybe a little too much turp. It also gives that nice kind of glowing, that glowing effect that you really like with the pink. So I might go back and wipe my brush off, and I'm just gonna get some more of that pink. And I'm gonna go back over and add some of those darker petals in here. Okay, so now I'm gonna go in and get some of those greens in there, and I could do that with, I could just block in some of those greens with some, I'll just use a little sap and a little bit of this red oxide just to sort of dull it down a bit, make it a little less hyper with the green. And I'm just gonna kind of block in green around the flowers, but not worry at this point about getting in the exact leaves. Just gonna get in sort of where I see it. So right there, you're looking at where there's no green but a little bit of green. So there's these little, all those little stems that come off the main stem. So I'll just kind of block that in as a solid shape for now. And it kind of comes in front of this pink one here. Just sort of blocking in, because the more you block in, the more you start to see that you couldn't see before. So I like to get the block in and not think too hard, but at the same time you're kind of planning ahead so that you get some things in your painting that you want, like these. I like these stems that are showing up, and the reason I'm paying attention to those two is these are there's no green leaves there, so I don't want to paint a bunch of green. I want to show that off there, so I'm going to just be careful how high I go with all those leaves. And just kind of block that in. And there's some green all the way under here. Also, when you're painting a light flower, you wanna get in some darker comparison, like the green in there will help pop out the pink. If you just have light around it the whole way, it's very hard to see. And this is a 10 by 10 canvas surface that I decided to use, just only because it's taking up space in the cupboard, so I thought it'd be a good one to paint a little geranium with a hummingbird. And there's some greens in there that you could pop a little bit of a mark of green here and there. That'll also make it look more like a geranium. There's another geranium coming out here, but I want to be careful that I have room for my hummingbird later. Okay, so now that you've got that blocked in, you can, sometimes it's fun to just give yourself an idea. So there's some lighter green petals shapes. You can shape some of those with your paper towel like this. Gives you a little something to look forward to when you put your paint on. You gotta do some things to help yourself get through your painting, that you get inspired along the way. Sometimes doing this gives you an instant feel of, you know, something good happening. So that's always a good thing. And I'm gonna now get my brush and go back to the pink flowers. Now I should get a different, I'm using this number 8, but I used it for the green, so I should have thought this out a little earlier, but I'll switch brushes to this. This is an old rosemary brush that's like really old. I'm gonna mix some of that permanent rose and white in there. And I'm gonna just add some of that light pink to these little buds here. Just a little bit here and there. And get a little more of that permanent rose and make a little bit of a darker mix. And kind of like a mid-tone value, and just sort of put some petals in there that are a little bit, you know, just a variety. So you've got your darker pinks and lighter pinks. You could try some of the quinacridone just to compare. It's really similar. And kind of reshape those edges a little. And sometimes I'll get on the edges, I'll get some of that just pure of that quinacridone or permanent rose, and just get those edges kind of a darker, and put in some darker notes in that flower just so that the lighter petals really show up. You gotta get the dark in to show the light. So now you're starting to see a little more of that pop out. And then you can work in some of that pink between those little green stems there. There's some pink that comes into the in between because you're seeing them through the other side of the flower. And just kind of ruffle up those edges a little. And some real dark pink spots in there. Some of them look purple almost. Okay, and then I'm gonna go back to my main flower here and just get some more permanent rose. And this is Winsor Newton I'm using here. And I'm going to mix up a little permanent rose and a little orange and a little bit of white. And I'm gonna just go and look at this main flower again. And we get a little more white in there. And just get a little bit more petal work in there. gonna get a little bit more darker paint here, and as they come to the center, just put in some of those, that sort of darker pink that's in the middle. And get some more white in that mix. And a little orange to warm it up so it's not so icy. And put a little highlight on the edges there. And over here. Just kind of shape this main flower a little. And then I'll go back and we gotta really just put a little dark, kind of pinky, there's like a bluey, pinky, purpley color in the middle. So I'll get some cobalt in there, make a darker, kind of that weird, kind of purpley red color that's way down there. It's probably just picking up some of the green from behind. And I'll get a little sap green and kind of cut back in the shape of that main one. When you cut the green back in, it really can look very, you know, painterly. So I'm just taking some green on the edge of my brush and kind of working it in. Like that. This really makes it, you know, show off a little. And then there's some dark green in here. And I'm going to make sure that stem gets in there a little darker, so I'll add some, just add some ultramarine blue to that little stem that comes down here in the shadows, and some in here. And you see where I wiped the paper towel off earlier, kind of helps me, give me a little something to guide my eye in putting some different values into my green leaves, so I can look at these shapes while I'm painting and I can almost see that bluey green in the background, and I can really cut out some of those shapes that I see to make it really like real geranium leaves. They're different than most green leaves, you see. So I'm getting a little bit of the detail, but not without, you know, having to do a lot of work. And then I'll use some of that shadow color in the green right there to shape those little buds that are coming. Just put a little bit of that nice the shadowy color, which is ultramarine blue and sap. Just put some of that in there. Okay, so it's starting to now look more and more like a geranium. What a relief. So sometimes when you're doing a demo, you don't think about all these things when you're painting on your own. So when you start overthinking, it can be almost a little deadly. So if it works out, I'm always happy. Okay, so now I'm going to, we're going to add some more detail here. I got to get in a little a little bit more of the darker petal shapes. So we've got this main flower. I'm just gonna kind of get a little bit more of those pink kind of things in the center. There's sort of a darker pink in the center of those, and then there's a little bit of white. Get a little bit of that white, and I'm gonna add some cobalt to it, and just put a little dab of that white that's in the center of that one. And then over here there's some too. And then you can take your brush and just kind of drag it a bit to soften those marks in. And you don't, sometimes you put the detail work in and you said, oh, would look better if I just left that out. So just go back and get some more of that pink. And I think it looks better just simplified, so I'm going to leave that white detail out. There you go. And then I'm going to get some more pink and make some marks like the edges of some of these flowers. There's some real just sort of marks showing the light hitting sort of the sides of some of these petals. Put a few of those lighter. I promise I won't do a pink flower after this for a while. We did the pink peony, and now we're doing a pink geranium. I think it's time to move back to purple or blue and just add a bit more action on this one. And now I want to go in and pop a little bit more of that green in that I see, so there's just a little more contrast. So I see some dark green in there, a little bit here and there. Okay, so it's starting to look a little more like a geranium, except now I wanted to come up with a blue that fits the kind of color scheme. So there's a little bit, I'm getting some viridian in there and some yellow ochre and white, and that'll give me some of these more, the petals that are catching the light from above, that sort of northern looking light. Put a few of those more bluey greens in there. Here and there, so we have some variety. And some white, and just get just a few of those nice kind of greeny blue leaves in there. And then sometimes I'll do a crossover. I'll add a little sap with the viridian and the white just to mix it up a little, and put a little highlight on that stem there and over there. And then those little buds have more of a yellow in them, so I'll get some of that cad yellow light and just dab some of those more lime greeny. And there's some of that in the mix here, some of those lime green green colors in the, so you get a variety. It doesn't look just all one green. Makes it a little more interesting. So the greens again are, this was some Viridian and yellow ochre, and then I was using Viridian and yellow ochre and white, and sap green and cad yellow light makes a nice kind of lime green color too. So if you do that blocking in with the green first, you'll find you get, it's easier when you go and fill in later. Now I'll just add a little of this, I've got this dioxazine violet, and I'll add that into my green. Some of this Viridian green, just to kind of harmonize those colors a little, and I'll put a little bit of that purple in there. Just for fun. And then if you get too many, if it starts to look too, you know, marky and too, too digital almost, you just kind of take your brush and a dry brush and just sort of, you can drag some of these marks off so there, it loosens it back up. Well, I think that's about it. You can add a little bit of that darker pink in. Some of these, green leaves have a little bit of it sometimes. You see blue in the hydrangea leaves, and you see some of the reds in the peony leaves. You just, they pick up a little bit of the color around them. So, and you could add a little bit of pink coming out of the ends of some of these little buds. And a little bit of light there. Just on a few of those edges, you could add a little highlight. But I think that's about it. I wouldn't do too much more with that. And so I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And I'll see you in the next lesson. Thanks for watching.